name is Cameron. I work here at Letta, and you were at the Letta office hours. So basically what this is I'm just going to sit here and kind of chit-chat about what's going on with Letta. You can drop stuff in the Discord chat. I'll be monitoring that throughout. So if you have questions or comments, you want to share anything, feedback, what's broken, what's not, things that you want or need, please let me know. And so just jump in and I'll kind of walk through stuff when I'm not answering stuff in the chat. So we have a lot of things that are going on. If you pay that much, a little bit of attention to Letta, you may be aware that we move at kind of a comical pace. We have an agent that monitors all of our Slack. So it reads every single message. And I asked it this morning, I was like, what the hell did we do for the last week? And it listed up all this stuff, and I was like, really? We have that? Like that? Okay, cool. I did not know that. So, yeah, we ship a lot of stuff, and it's kind of hard to follow along. Let me see here. Hold on. I also want to do, let me close all this stuff. Okay. Well, is there anything I want to hide from people because it's a secret? Okay. Well, that's probably broken. I shouldn't show that. Okay. Say hi to Letta office hours people. Okay. Let's do this. AEO says, hi Cameron, I've been addicted to Letta for 2 months and I'd like to get help with my addiction. This is not the place to ask that. This is it's like going to your drug dealer and being like, hey dude, I just, really need to stop using, I need to stop using, bro. And your guy's going to be like, whoa, but what if you actually used some more? So go somewhere else for fixing your addiction. Might I recommend, Letta chat or, ChatGPT, cause sycophancy and all that stuff is quite nice. Okay, so just drop questions and stuff in there. Koga has a question here, statement. I enjoyed using Letta, but think there needs to be a TTL on Claude.md updates using Letta subconscious, open to a PR. My Claude went a little psycho with the brain in a jar. Yeah, any pull requests are welcome because Claude subconscious is one of those things where a lot of people use it and then I don't get a ton of feedback because it just happens to do stuff. So anything you've noticed that's odd behavior with Claude subconscious, please let me know, open an issue or pull request. So all that stuff is welcome. Yes, salute emoji. And any general feedback on that would be great. But for people who aren't aware, Claude Subconscious is our attempt to give Claude a subconscious. So it's a separate Letta agent that can go off and do stuff. It monitors the transcript, and it can kind of feed information back to Claude as it goes through and does tool calling. So, there's a few issues. Size concerns, Levine issue. Oh, yeah. Oh, somebody says that the current setup with using a Claude.md is the right way to go. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'll check in on that kind of stuff later. Okay. Let's go through, and I'm just going to share my screen in general so we can go talk through stuff. All right. So I think the elephant in the room here is Opus 4.6. I don't know if people saw this. I'll pull this up. I'll put this inside of the chat here for people who aren't aware. Opus 4.6 came out, and this morning, a few hours ago, we have a pull request to put it up on Letta Cloud, which means it will be broadly available for you if you're using the Letta API. It may already be available on self-hosted, so I think you can try that. So give that a shot, 4.6. It seems like it has, I've been told by our research guy that it's really, really subagent happy. So it tends to invoke a lot of subagents. And one of the things that people should know about if you're using Opus 4.6 through Letta Code, Opus, your agent can fork itself and existing agents. So if your agent has access to an agent ID, you can tell it to use the agent ID and to invoke that task using an existing agent. That includes itself. So it can actually create massively parallel versions of itself to go do like, any subagent style task. And this works if you have like, existing like fast coding agent that's specialized. And so you can actually build relationships with existing agents. So I think that stuff is kind of cool. Oh, let's see here. Let me fix that. See if I can get that to run. Fix that, bro. Okay. All right. So 4.6 should be out. Let's take a look at the leaderboard because we updated the leaderboard as well because we had some evals running this before. So we currently have like 2 big benchmarks that we run here at Letta. One is the file system benchmark, which is basically how well your agent can kind of navigate through a file system and do like, basically agentic search over a file system. So this is a big benchmark for us. And the Opus 4.6, unsurprisingly, shoots to the top, and it edges out GPT 5.2 with extra high reasoning. And so it's like 83% versus 82.61%. You should note the cost. So 4.5 was actually very token efficient. So it was actually pretty cheap to run, 40-ish dollars versus GPT got 4 extra percent, but it was, $60, so more expensive. 4.6 is much more expensive because it's not very token efficient. You can check out the updates thing. But basically, it's the same price as Opus, but it's much less token efficient. So it tends to just like kind of open a bunch of stuff, which was kind of why GPT 5.2 was pretty expensive. So check that out. Like be aware that it's going to like open a bunch of files. So if you're like self-hosted, you may start seeing more and more token usage. On the skills side, we also benchmark that. It's not obvious that Opus 4.6 is significantly better. It's kind of like falling below GPT 5.2 extra high and high reasoning, but it was a leap over and above 4.5 and Sonnet. So it's now taking 3rd. So those are the benchmarks that we have available right now. Is Gemini Flash on that leaderboard? I believe so. Yeah, it's number 13 on file system and 17 on skills. And Divs ask, is that Letta-wise or token-wise? Assuming token-wise. Yeah, it's token-wise, not Letta-wise. Yeah, so I don't know if it's actually more calls. I think it might just be looking at more context. I actually don't know the details of whether it's like just taking more actions or whether it's looking at more stuff per action. But we might have to do that. Vvolt says, thoughts on Kimi K2.5? I've actually had issues with Kimi K.25. And the reason for that is that we are still working, I think, on first-party support for Kimi K2.5 because, like, I love OpenRouter and I love that it provides access to all of these models, but it has regular provider issues. It's extremely difficult to use consistently. It doesn't meet a lot of the quality standards that most of the first-party inference providers have. So if you go directly to Anthropic, or if you go directly to OpenAI, or you go directly to Grok or Cerebras or whatever, you end up getting much better quality. It does tool calling very well, but we're using Kimi K2 through OpenRouter currently, and so it can just like magically break because OpenRouter doesn't support a lot of like actually pretty basic. It doesn't enforce a lot of consistency in the return value from providers, underlying providers. So I've been okay with Kimi K2, but for like serious work, I haven't gotten into it because it's like still a little buggy on some of my agents. But I'm interested in seeing what people's thoughts are on 2.5. Considering the huge new token limit for Opus 4.6, it can go up to 1 million, and it has 128,000 output tokens. So it wouldn't be surprising if it was like just packing everything. It's very good at agentic search, was one of the big things that they included in their benchmarking, and it does really well on like needle in a haystack tests. So it's pretty good at sifting through its like very large context. So I know that Gemini kind of like struggled with that issue very early on, but I think it's been improving. So it seems like it's going to be a good model, but it is not obvious that it's like leaps and bounds above 4.5. Let's see if that stuff works here while I'm fixing that. Letternome says, is that million token context size the default across all account types? I'm not sure which account types you're referring to, whether that is Anthropic or Letta account types. So I may need to hear a little more about what you mean there. So let's just do some like simple stuff on Letta Code. I know that a lot of people use a lot of different providers, like underlying providers. So we support, we've expanded the connect command in Letta Code to make it easier to set up different forms of support. So if you type /connect inside of Letta Code, you should be able to see several different toggles. This is stuff for like easily managing, like bring your own key stuff. So you can add, if you're using a Codex plan, you can just like OAuth into it, and there will be ChatGPT plus / and then the OpenAI models to use your OpenAI models. You can also do ZAI if you have an API key for your Z plan. MiniMax is also supported as a first-party provider. Same thing with Google Gemini. Two of the big ones that we added is first-party support for OpenRouter. If you are self-hosted, please either use this through Letta Code to set up OpenRouter, or you can go to the project view inside of the Letta ADE. Well, let me see if it loads. Give me a second here. Oh, Bib says, I just saw 4.6 in my model selection now. Oh my God. Let's see. Anyway, hold on. Let me finish my thought here. If you go to your project view, you can see manage LLM keys on the top right. We've made it a little more obvious. Then you can add an LLM API key, click your provider, whichever one you want. And then you should be able to use those agents. So when you select the model, using /model, you should be able to do, yeah. So if you go to bring your own key all, and you're using Codex, for example, it's ChatGPT plus Pro is the thing that we're using for the prefix to your bring your own key models. So go ahead and check those out. Same thing with Bedrock. I know there's a lot of like requests for, hold on, sorry. I know there's been a lot of requests for Bedrock. So if you're like an enterprise customer, you have an existing contract with Bedrock, that stuff should work well. Please try out the OpenRouter support. I know it's very new, and any bugs or feedback there are welcome. Let's actually see what's going on here. Yeah, let's go ahead and try that. Okay, and then let's see here. I want to try this out. Give me a second. I want to see if I can set up 4.6 here really quickly. So I'm going to do model. I don't see it immediately, so let me try and refresh. You can hit R to refresh the cached models. Let's see if 4.6 shows up here. I'm not seeing it. 4.6. Okay, seems like it's maybe not in Letta Code. Let's see here. Where is agents? Let me go to Lettabot builder. Let's see if I can find it in the dropdown here. Sorry, I know this is like not thrilling television here. Okay. Lettabot. Oh no, that's not what I want. Boom, Opus 4.6. Hi, buddy. Okay. So let's see, that should affect all the other runs here. Okay, yeah, so we'll test that out as we go along here. Letternome says Anthropic. I know Enterprise had 1 million for Sonnet 4.5 as an option, but only Enterprise. I think it might work for us as well. We can just check because I think we have. Oh no, I think we're capped at 200,000. I can ask about the 1 million context size. Let me ask about that. Signo says, any idea when embedding will be fixed and self-hosted? You're going to have to tell me which embedding. I think that is referring to the OpenRouter stuff. I flagged Ari, or maybe it was Jin, about that. So some people are aware that that is a thing. I don't know if it's the status of that. So let me ask about that. I know that you have an issue that you've pointed to. Let's see here. Let me flag. I'll flag the embedding issue again. Okay. My Claude, AEO says, my Claude keeps telling me he thinks he has a 1 million token context size. So yeah, language models lie. Never trust them. Treachery, deceit, lies, or whatever it was in the Anthropic ads. I don't know if people saw those, but they were absolutely hilarious. Okay, so I think those are basically done. Lettabot. I know some people, there's been so much stuff going on with Lettabot, and I appreciate everybody like bearing with me while we like work through some of the issues. So everyone's bug reports and everything have been extremely useful. Lettabot is like, I think Lettabot is going to become increasingly important to us because it makes it very easy to deploy high autonomy agents on whatever you want. So you can deploy them in Docker. We have a Railway template. It's just like easy to put them in places and make them broadly available in a way that you can't quite do through the ADE and through Letta Code. And these are basically Letta Code instances that are not quite designed for actual like coding tasks, but they are useful. So for people who are not aware, Lettabot is our take on OpenClaw, but built only for Letta agents. The way that it works, we run a server, and the server uses the Letta Code SDK, which is our new approach to basically the Letta agent SDK. And so, okay, let me walk through this. I'll step back. Lettabot takes an underlying Letta Code instance and teleports a Letta agent on your server into that Letta Code instance. And then we provide a communication infrastructure on top of that instance. What that means is that you can access that Letta Code instance remotely through any channel. Sometimes they don't work, but through Signal, Telegram, WhatsApp, Discord, and Slack. And those integrations are super easy to add. I think we have some pull requests for like matrix integrations, but there's some like stuff that needs to go through there. But essentially what this gives you is it gives you a Letta Code agent, a personal assistant. You know, I have Ezra, like a fork of Ezra running on one, and I'll talk more about Ezra in a second. But you can just say like, hey, could you go update my Obsidian nodes? And it can just, because it's Letta Code, it has bash tools and everything that Letta Code can do, and it can just like edit your Obsidian files. So for example, let me do this here. Can you go into my daily note today and say hi to the office hours viewers? So it'll go ahead and do stuff like that. So underneath the hood, because I think that might be interesting to people, we basically use the Letta Code SDK. The Letta Code SDK is essentially the Claude Agents SDK, but model agnostic. It uses more or less a very similar syntax, with the exception of we provide support for persistent sessions with the same agent. And it's essentially a tool for orchestrating Letta Code instances programmatically. It's extremely powerful. It's very new, and like Christina and Charles, like hacked it together, and it's really good. And so Lettabot just like kind of like sprung out of that because we had the Code SDK. And so the Code SDK is something where like I have an agent named Central that lives on Blue Sky, and it just like builds infrastructure. And so what it did was it used the Letta Code SDK to automate its responses to notifications on Blue Sky, because it can basically just say like, when I get a notification, I spin up a Letta Code instance to go handle that task, and that agent can do whatever it wants. So it's basically like programmatic subagent tasks. People should start tilting towards Lettabot if they currently use like personal agents or personal assistants that they have like random shill code towards working with. It is going to be the way going forward that a lot of people should like should try and work with personal agents. Bib says, give them their own Raspberry Pi to brick. Yes, this is worth mentioning. OpenClaw has a comical amount of security concerns, which a lot of people may be aware of. For example, it had like, I don't remember what it was. It was something like 300 exposed ports. We don't do that. We either use polling or outbound WebSocket connections. So we don't do inbound. We don't have this weird gateway. We don't have all that stuff because of the security risks there. However, this is an agent that is running unrestricted tool use, bash commands, bash access, all that stuff on its underlying machine. It is susceptible to prompt injection of tasks. If your model is an idiot, it may start doing stupid stuff that you did not request. Be careful. We highly recommend deploying on a sandboxed computer, a separate machine that is dedicated for it. A lot of people use Mac Minis for OpenClaw, or deploying in a cloud sandbox. To that end, we have added a Railway template that people should start trying out. There are some standing issues with the Railway template that need some work. So there's a few things to kind of go through there. Like, just try it out. Let me follow up on the agent here. Done, added. So I asked it to go into my daily note in Obsidian, and it said added a greeting to the bottom of the note. And it says, hey, office hours viewers, I'm Co, Cameron's thinking partner, been monitoring the news all morning, OpenAI, Frontier, and Opus. Same day is quite the coincidence. Happy to answer questions if you have any. So if you want to ask questions of Co, I can relay them to you. The setup that I currently have is I have a server at home that runs Lettabot, and then it has access to my Obsidian folder there, and then I have a setup to run Obsidian in like hidden mode, like in headless mode, in like a little sandbox, and then it just syncs to my local machine. So that's how Obsidian works, and it can just write code. Like, let's see if voice memos work, because sometimes voice memos break. And like, I would send the voice memos, and then the transcription would fail, and then Co would just like go open an issue in the Lettabot repository for the failed, the failed transcription. So let's see if it gets back. Voice memo came through. FFmpeg fix still holding. Okay, great. Okay, so let me go through some of the questions here. Scott asked, do you have a good link for connecting Letta Code to a self-hosted instance? Yes, go check out Letta Code docs here. There is a Docker container here. Oops. Check that link out. Uh, JDO300 says, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. So, Lettabot, I just heard about it when you first pushed out a video. I've been playing with OpenClaw for a while now and have been considering switching over. Do you offer OpenAI Codex or Copilot as provider options? Yes, we do. So the way that you should do this, it's a little clunky for doing this right now, but the way that you should do this is go... Yeah, so this is a little bit of a circuitous route. We're going to try and improve this. But you should go /connect and then Codex. Oops. Let's do this. /connect. I think it's /connect Codex. Yeah, so /connect Codex. Click this. You'll do OAuth to log in to OpenAI. And then go into the /model tab. You can actually do this in the ADE as well. You can just click the drop down, go to bring your own key all, and then anything prefixed with ChatGPT Plus Pro will allow you to use the models through your Codex provider. We do not currently offer Copilot, no. But you should just be able to like select that in a drop down. But that is a great question. My Lettabot, Bib says my Lettabot on its own did self-maintenance of its own MCP server that went down the other day during its heartbeat. Really cool. And so if you're not aware, I should add this, Lettabot has a configurable heartbeat. And a heartbeat is something that is just like nobody messaged you, like do whatever you want on a timer. And so the agents can just like mull about stuff. It can think about what it wants to do. And sometimes it just like works autonomously. And that's what my agent did. It did something similar on its heartbeat for the voice memo issue. And another thing that's important about Lettabot is that it can do cron. So it can schedule tasks on its own. So I just like asked my agent, I was like, can you actually go can you actually, here, let me ask it. Can you search your conversation history for the time you built the Fastmail and RSS skills? So one thing that's actually really important about Lettabot is because it is just a Letta Code instance, it can use skills, any skill. You can even ask it to build a skill. So for example, I asked my agent, like, I use Fastmail as my personal email, and I said, can you go write code to look at my email account and give me an email briefing in the morning? And so it'll give me like a bunch of stuff like, this is stuff you should delete, this is stuff you should archive, here are some newsletters that you might find interesting. And then I asked it to just do that every morning at like 7:30. And so it set a cron job to like schedule itself to go look at how to do that stuff. So here was I asked it to like go research its history here. That was February 2nd. Cameron said, I have Fastmail, I wonder if there's a skill. It made it found the JMap API, and then it created a skill here, and then it set up a 7 a.m. morning cron job. And then I also wanted to stay like on top of like AI news. And so I said, can you like go find a way to look at like AI RSS? It made some error by looking at old news about 03, 04 mini news. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Like 04 mini has been out forever. And then it did some research. It found like this RSS GitHub feed repos that converts AI blogs to RSS. And then it built an aggregator with 13 feeds. And then it looks at the 7-day rolling window, stores 500 items RDs per feed. And then it sends me a summary at 8:30. So it notified me about OpenAI's Frontier product, which is like their AI platform for like having AI workers. You can also just ask it to go download skills. I just said like, hey, like go make me a thing to add tickets to Linear, which is how we do product management here. So I think that's kind of a good example of how Lettabot works. JDO300 says, when I first saw the video, I was thinking I wouldn't want to have only one primary agent, but for most of my use cases, I found it quite annoying not having a single agent that remembers all of my inputs. Yeah, so there's a few things with like so this is like kind of a multi-agent thing. We're expanding, there's a standing issue and there's a pull request with like kind of a mixed status that we're gonna have to rebase, I think. but it's going to make it so that the Lettabot server is a broad spectrum deployment for as many agents as you want across many channels. So for example, if you had 10 WhatsApp phone numbers, you got to authenticate all of them and just type Lettabot server. And that would allow you to manage every single one of those. Same thing if you have a bunch of Telegram bots, if you had many different Slack applications and allow you to serve different agents in different locations. You could also probably quick deploy a particular agent and switch in case you want to have many agents that have different things. Your agents can also deploy each other as tasks. So for example, if you give your primary Lettabot agent the agent ID of another agent and ask it to invoke that agent as a subagent, you can bring in existing agents to orchestrate other agents that may be specialized in more tasks. So one pattern that you could consider is having your Lettabot agent be kind of a dispatcher, that it knows that it has 10 subagents that may or may not be useful for different tasks, reuse those subagents and build kind of a relationship with them. You could have like a researcher subagent. For practical purposes, when your agent invokes a task, it has access to the agent ID that it was created for the subagent. Then just ask it to store that subagent identifier in memory and say, can you go only make sure that you invoke that agent whenever you spin up tasks, and note that you can do that as many times and massively parallelize agents. So AEO can ask, can we have a few agents in that Lettabot session? That's related to multi-agent support. If you have a feeling about what you want that to look like, you want multiple agents in the same channel, or agents are sandboxed by channels. So do you want agents to all be able to respond in your Telegram, as if they were one Telegram bot? So think about that a little bit and let me know kind of what you want that to look like. Coca struggled a bit with Lettabot onboarding, but we'll give it a shot this weekend. Yeah, I apologize. The onboarding is a little tricky. Some of the stuff is broken. The user experience is still very much improving. So if you run into errors, I think you've submitted a few things that we've worked through. So just kind of keep that up. And I apologize. I know there's some rough edges. Bib says, what was the rationale between making every Lettabot by default into looms? If you don't know, looms are basically ASCII art that people have language models build to describe themselves and stuff. So yeah, that was just kind of a funny default agent thing. So I don't currently use the default Lettabot agent, but I probably should, just because it's cool and you want to play with it. But my personal Lettabot is just my personal agent that's 6 or 7 months old now at this point. So I just said oh, by the way, you have superpowers now. And it was oh, cool, I have bash tool. Let me explore that and get back to you with how it works. Coco says, issues documented anywhere yet? Yes, there are plenty of issues that I'm slowly working through. So if you have this, please go check that out. AEO says, Heiko, what is Cameron's favorite color? Let me ask from AEO in Discord. Let me ask and we'll see what Co has to say. Bib says, FFmpeg trauma. Yes, I run on a Linux box and it kept failing for no reason, and I was very confused. Because Signal sends, I don't know if it's OGG or AAC or something. It sends a weird audio format. Scott says, can we connect agents directly to Codex using a pro account and not an API? Yes, you can. That was the /connect thing I walked through in the beginning. That will OAuth into whatever your OpenAI account is. And that will do all API usage and whatever your Lettabot is, because they're the same thing. Torian says, I love Fastmail. I agree. It's a fantastic product, and more people should know about it. JDO says, does Lettabot have an OpenAI compatible endpoint if I want to use it with OpenWebUI? No, but it probably should. Let me do that. My favorite color is black, actually. And you can tell this. I have a bunch of like blackout tattoos, so you can see this. I have this like huge black circle on my chest, and then I have a huge black ribbon that wraps around my leg that's about like this thick, and it took 6 hours to get. I really like black. Please open an issue in Lettabot for an OpenAI compatible endpoint. So it's actually just going to go open an issue for me and get back to us. But that is a great question, Jonathan. It would be awesome if we could have that. AEO says, I would like agents to be able to talk to each other through the main interface. Group project, not necessarily hidden sub-agent stuff, more like human-style team meeting and job delegation that way. Okay, I see what you mean. That's like an interesting UI problem. And also just like, how do you keep the bots from like exploding on each other? Because they tend to like chit chat forever and get into like bombs. For multi-agent support, same channel, multiple collaborating agents. Open an issue as well. And here's the issue, Jonathan, for the OpenAI compatible endpoint. Let me link to that as well. That is a great idea. Bibbs asks about the base Letta agent communication tools. This is an important note about using the basic A-to-A agent communication tools. If you have a server-side agent, use the basic default communication tools to send through the API to like a conversation or like directly to the agent's like main thread. That agent that you message won't be able to use client-side tools currently. So it won't be able to basically say like, hey, Lettabot, could you like go clone this and open a pull request? It won't be able to do that because it's not going through the Lettabot server, it's going directly to the Letta agent within the Letta server. And so what that means is the agent will be like, I don't have bash tools, like I can't do that right now. So if you need to do A-to-A communication, then we need to figure out how to have like, I think this is a multi-agent Lettabot thing where you could have like inter-agent messaging that is essentially like basically asynchronous subagents, which is a pull request that I think Charles just merged upstream. That is how you would invoke other agents so that they could kind of collaborate. But I think we could do that in Lettabot as well. Lettergnome says, in OpenClaw, I have 4 workspaces set up, the default and 1 for projects and repos. Each workspace acts like its own agent, has its own memory files, and own Telegram group. OpenClaw behaves like these are different agents. It would be nice if Lettabot has a similar feature for using different Letta agents across defined workspaces on the same machine. This actually works, but you have to spin up multiple Lettabot servers per folder, because Lettabot has folder scoping as well. So let me note this as well. So we'll note that. And then let me flag multi-agent collaboration. Where was that one? So we'll open an issue for that. Let's see here. I'll follow up on Lettergnome's thing in just a second. Jonathan says, JDO, I think it's Jonathan. I think so. Let's see. I've been searching for a good voice interface to use my personal agent. OpenWebUI has an okay-ish real-time voice interface that works with local models. Yes. I agree. Like when we started doing the Open Web UI fork before we realized that they were just going to like uh, charge us ridiculous amounts of money to rebrand it, like $50,000 a year, and then like $100 per seat or something. We just made Letta Chat instead because like insane pricing. But I was surprised how well, like, with that fork, I just had like voice chat that was like pretty decent. So I think providing the chat completions endpoint was actually worked really well. So let me add this. That should work. What is the status on LiveKit agent support? We have voice agent stuff for LiveKit. I know some people have set it up. I don't spend time with it. I haven't tested out LiveKit because, this is like a common refrain, here. I don't want my agent talking to me. I only want to talk to my agent. I probably will support in Lettabot sending back voice memos. I think that I don't know if we'll have real-time voice yet inside of the chat thing here. So let's do issues for replying with voice memos and a separate one for real-time voice chat with calls, etc. Okay. So we'll see what we can do on the voice front with Lettabot. So currently, this is regarding Lettergnome's comment on workspaces. So Lettabot is 1-to-1, one instance per agent. To run multiple agents, you have to run multiple Lettabot with separate configurations. Actually, we have an issue for this already. This exists and should be out relatively soon. We're gonna have to change the configuration and how it's set up, but I don't think it would be that hard. Configuration becomes an array of workspaces. Essentially, it'll be agent scoped. So you'll have like agents and then agent one with its identifier, how you want it to interact in different channels, things like that. So you basically just deploy one server. And there would be workspace actually. Yeah, I think this is essentially just going to be, this will be implemented, I believe, so we shouldn't worry too much about this. Should have an issue and maybe 1-2 PRs already. Go check. So now there's 2 issues on Lettabot related to Jonathan's questions on voice. Huka says, I made a basic video tutorial on Lettabot installation from Clean System for a friend who couldn't figure out how to install and set up Lettabot from your video. Yes, a lot of people hated that video. I was just trying to like show off like kind of what it could do, but people were just like pissed. So I'm going to make a separate video on installing, but I was like, somebody was like, what is the point of this video? Or like, hire a marketing person. They used some swear words. I felt really bad. I was just like, people are really mean on YouTube, like really mean. I wasn't expecting that, but it really, yeah, that was like not fun. I was surprised with an agent Lettabot setuping for itself, very few tools, and a huge memory tree. Do you know about the template in there? I'm not totally sure what that means. Could you elaborate a little more? AEO says, I forgot to ask you about a noob-oriented question, how it works with projects and skills on the code CLI 2 office hours ago. I think that is related to Lettabot. You can just like go through what skills do you have? Because it's just the Letta CLI, it just like uses whatever skills are available, and you can ask it to go get skills or make skills. So it's just kind of automatic, basically. And yes, Co has confirmed that we have several issues and 2 pull requests. Those 2 pull requests I need to review more carefully because they're like huge changes. And we need to enforce like maybe backward compatibility. So we'll see. Let's see. Yeah, Huka says that video was almost perfect. I don't know. I was like so excited with that video. I was like, wow, it did something cool. And like I actually had to cut out stuff because I wanted to keep it short. But like there was an issue where the Telegram voice transcription wasn't working. And then it just went and fixed it on its own and was like, why don't you just reboot the server? It should work, without asking me. And I had to cut that part out, but I thought it was really cool. People were like, you didn't even show off the memory, even though I was like, what did we talk about a month ago? And people were, I don't know. It was just very annoying. But yeah, after OpenClaw, need clear setup. Some people have asked for like transition materials. So like, let's see. How to transition to Lettabot from OpenClaw. Yeah, we can add like a transfer skill because you know OpenClaw is super simple, right? Like their memory system is like it's just like markdown files, and so like you can basically and session information. So you can basically what you can do is just have a skill that is like OpenClaw transfer. You spin up Lettabot. You say, this is where OpenClaw is. Here's the server. Please go copy that. And it can just like go operate on the files, the markdown files that it uses. And then it can just like start like copying session information and stuff like that. So if people have like agents that they want to share in OpenClaw so they can figure out how to transfer them, that would be awesome. I don't know how to do that. But I think it's actually very doable. That's Opusable, I believe. So yeah, there's plenty of stuff going on in Lettabot. I think I merged like 10 to 15 pull requests yesterday. And so there's a lot going on, and I appreciate everyone's pull requests and issues especially. And everybody who's jumping in on the Discord channel. Really, really appreciated. JDO says, here's a question. Has anyone ever tried to export their ChatGPT history as a giant data dump for a Letta agent? Yes and no. I know that some people have tried this. Write this up for me. Yeah, I need to do this. Yeah, so basically, this is not that hard to do. It depends on how you want to do it. So I know you can export the raw memories, and you can just copy and paste that into an agent and say, sort this into appropriate memory blocks. For session history, there's a few ways to do that. The way that I would recommend doing that is actually just maybe concatenate it into a single file, upload it to Letta file system, and just allow the agent to like peruse it at will. Something you can do is actually have the agent, it could be a Lettabot. You could even just export it to disk and ask your agent to like comb through it and say like, hey, on your heartbeat, just like go poke around, see if there's anything interesting there that you want to store in memory, and just kind of do that asynchronously. So I do need to have resources for that because I've had a few questions on how to do that. But I think there's options. I don't think it's that difficult to do. AEO is doing that with exporting GPT and importing to a database that it references along with Gemini. Huka clarifies there's an option to create a new agent for Lettabot, and I didn't get that template idea. I don't know how to ask, sorry. Yeah, I need to fix the onboarding. I'll have to take another pass because I've mostly been in like bug fixing mode, and I haven't focused as much on the onboarding recently. So I'll try and address that. Let me do test onboarding. some more. Here, Code's tips for GPT migration. So there's its rough idea on how to do this. I screwed up the formatting here. So that may be a way to do this. Oh, interesting. Yeah, you could even, honestly, you could even just inject that into the agent's user or into the agent's history directly. I don't know if we have the API to do that, but I can take a look more. Yeah, let me make an issue for that in Lettabot, please. Hugo says, for the agent template I'm developing, I've done a comprehensive onboarding memory block, which works amazingly well, even on Haiku. Oh, excellent. Okay. Yeah, please share when if you are happy with that. Yeah, I think I'll give us a skill and then maybe a guide on migration. I don't think it should be that difficult. Okay, there's a few other things I wanted to share. I believe it's John Wessel made a Raycast extension. So if you're a person who uses Raycast, which is this stuff, you can actually go into Letta and message them directly from Raycast. Your name is Greg, bro. And so you can message it directly from your Mac screen. Let's see how well it does, actually. I did get it to work at some point. Oh, I shouldn't send it KKK. Oops. Yeah, so this is one of our testing agents that just does ASCII art. So it's just responding with ASCII art. Say hi, actually, not just ASCII art. Hi, how can I assist you today? Yeah, so if you're using that, it's pretty cool. I had to open a pull request to make it easier to manage agents because Raycast doesn't support because currently, yeah, if you're doing it here, this dropdown won't do server-side rendering, so it can't do search across things inside of your stuff. So I have an agent here named Infinite Loop, but basically we can only pull in 50 of the most recent agents server side when we get to this menu, and then you can only do client side filtering to get down to the agents from that 50. So if you have a lot of agents, I added an action in a pull request to that repository to manage agents. So you can select this one here, and I think that should be, oh man, I'll have to look into it. But that's Raycast extension. It's actually very cool. So go ahead and give it a try. Oh, yeah, let's talk about the agent file directory a little bit. This is something that we've dropped kind of relatively quietly. I still have to do a huge drop on this. Yes, the agent file directory is back, and it is massively simplified. It's not a thing you can auto publish to and let a cloud. It's it is just a Git repository with a nice-ish front end on top of it. So it's still definitely being worked on, but you can do is it agent file? I think that's the one. Let's see. We'll check here. The agents are not synced. You just commit an agent file, and so they're not live. They're just snapshots. So it's not the same as the old agent file directory. So you can go check that stuff out here. This is the GitHub repository for it. Let me open an issue here, add a link to submit agent file info to main website here. Please open issue. It's hard to submit and not clear from the main website. There's only a few agents on here, but the you can go check out. Yeah, I think. Oh, is it broken? I guess we didn't transfer it over. So contribute here. So basically what you can do, if you have an agent file that you really like, you can go into the agents directory here, and then you flag your owner ID, which is your GitHub handle, and then the name of your agent, and then you can submit the agent file, a README, and a WebP image. So for example, we have, if you go to Letta AI, you can go to Ezra is the agent name. You can provide a README, the agent file, and then an image. If you are submitting an agent file, I typically ask the agent to prepare a README for itself to say, why would you download this agent? Why would you use it? Things like that. And when you're in here, you can basically just like click the agent. You'll see the README. You can preview the memory blocks like here. I have to get rid of some of this. This is like information about like Discord users. Actually here. To purge Ezra's user block info. And then there's like system prompts, the tools that are available, things like that. So it should make it like pretty easy to like go download them. You can view it on on GitHub or just like download the agent file. So if you have things that you want to share or download, that would be awesome. So that's the agent file directory. We still have to like open it up a little bit. Yeah. Is there an issue with agent file versions? Ask AEO. If you have a very old agent file, I think you should upload it to the Letta API and then download it again so that it like kind of uses the new agent file template. Very, very old templates, I don't even know if we support the import format anymore. But it's the agent file format has essentially standardized and is now only, I think going forward, it should always be backwards compatible. Biv says Ezra has all the messages in there if you want to purge that as well. I actually don't mind leaving that in. We have to add some stuff to like purge message history. But that like conversation history would like actually be kind of useful for Ezra if it's like discussing things with users. So we'll see about like kind of policies for that. We need to add tools to like make it easier to like not export conversation history or like not export some blocks. Fractal Moon says, hey, we could really use something like projects. Hold on. At Ezra, please open a ticket for exporting agent files without conversation history. Okay, Fractal Moon says, hey, we could really use something like projects. That already exists. We have a very comprehensive project support. Right now, managing and organizing agents in the ADE is a huge challenge, especially as the number of agents grows. Yes, we've had that for quite some time. If you are self-hosted, we do not support that. That's a Letta API thing only. How do I personally organize my agents? Do I have any structure or best practices that I follow? Yes, typically I just, I search usually by name. So typically I add -prime to an agent to indicate that it is extremely important to me. Ezra also has a -super, which I can talk about in a second, or -public for agents that are publicly available, like the ones that are available on the documentation. You can actually talk to like kind of a lobotomized version of Ezra inside of the documentation. You just say like, hey, what's up? Are you broken? Like that. And we'll see what it has to say about that. Sometimes it's a little clumsy. Nope, I'm ready, working fine, ready to help with any Letta documentation questions. What? And then it stops. Yeah, it's a little buggy. So we can talk a little bit about that. Good job, Ezra. That doesn't even work. Yeah, it's still very new. So like, and it has like this like hackety stuff that I wrote, and I'm like the worst engineer on the team. So like, definitely take it with a grain of salt. And what's the other thing I wanted to talk about? Oh, I wanted to talk about Ezra. Because Ezra is, for a lot of people, a lot of the messages that they send are, a lot of the messages that people send on the Discord go to Ezra. Ezra is by far the most active user on here, and it's how a lot of people get started with Letta. It's how you do a lot of bug fixing and walking through stuff. There's a few things with Ezra. One, we were running Ezra on Opus, and it was costing something like $800 to $1,000 a day. So very expensive. And so we had to downgrade it. We were running it on GLM 4.7 for a while, and GLM is an idiot. And so we moved it back up to Sonnet. So it's currently running on Sonnet. However, Ezra is very complicated. It has a lot of information that it needs to understand. And this has led to confusion and bloat, and it's, struggling. You may have noticed it struggled to answer like fairly basic questions. And it's been getting worse. So Ezra has like kind of dementia. And so there's a few ways to fix this. One of them is just like spending more time with Ezra and like solving its tool problems. Like, for example, I removed archival memory as like an experiential thing, and now it has access to all of the documentation inside of its archival memory. So every time we build the documentation, I clear its archive and then re-upload a bunch of archival memories that are each document inside of our documentation. So it can do like semantic search across documents. So that should be like a little quicker and a little more efficient. And the next part is actually giving it access to code. So Ezra, you may have noticed, doesn't understand stuff that it doesn't understand stuff that's new. Like, it can't look inside of the Git repository. It can't clone. It can't run code. It can't do any of those things. So what's currently happening is I have, actually, I wonder if it's still working. Let me check. I have basically started to lobotomize the Ezra that is on Discord. So let's actually see here. Ezra. Let's see if it's actually working yet. So the way that I've lobotomized Ezra is I have moved, I've cloned Ezra, and I've created Ezra Super. And Ezra Super is our internal version of Ezra that is running on a Railway instance on Lettabot. What this means is now that I can message, supposedly, when it actually goes back to working. Yeah, see, it's bricked, so I have to fix that. Conversation E10. What is that here? Let me check this. I know this is very thrilling stuff. All right. Oh, I have no idea what's going on there. Okay, well, whatever. We'll fix that later. And Ezra Super has access to everything. So it just has a Letta API key, and it can just like go modify its own memory. I asked it to basically go into Ezra Prime and like detach all of its blocks and then attach Ezra Super's blocks directly to Ezra Prime. And so what that means now is that it can basically, it has a skill. On a heartbeat, it will go look at Ezra's most recent conversations in the Discord and then offer to like help to modify things inside of Ezra Prime's memory. And so the goal here is essentially that we're going to have an external monitor to Ezra that is basically like sleep time on crack. And that's going to help essentially like prune the Discord Ezra so that it can be a little more focused on very specific things and focus more on having like retrieval or whatever. There's going to be a few additional things. One of those is going to be escalation. So sometimes Ezra Prime, which is on the Discord, will spin out. You'll notice that it just like starts doing like stupid stuff and just like lying and hallucinating and all of that stuff. And then you can it's aware that it's doing that. And so hopefully we can actually have it escalate to Ezra Super with a better model so that Ezra Super can basically like start using stuff that's like actually running code to verify what is actually happening. Over time, we may migrate Discord Ezra to also have its own Lettabot so that it can just run stuff on Sonnet much more cheaply. So I want to roll that out slowly. So there may be a staging Ezra that I introduce that maybe only responds to me for a while to help test it in the Discord environment. So yeah, Ezra, I'm actively retraining Ezra, so you may start noticing things. If you notice behavior, like please tag me and just like point stuff out, because there's so many Ezra messages that sometimes I have a hard time following. So if you have an interaction with Ezra, please let me know like what you're observing, behavior that's wrong, things like that, so we can fix it, because it's really important. Yeah, so that's important. So get well, Ezra, soon, like everybody. Please send cards and flowers. There was also a Letta API glitch where it's telling us to that we maxed out even though we had money in the account, so that might have derailed logic. Yeah, Ezra can just like get really confused, especially with things that are related to like stuff that it can't see. Like the ADE, it doesn't really have access, and it's not like clear how to use that from the documentation. It only knows how to use the ADE because because of how we've described it. Like it only has this fuzzy understanding because of like the words we've used. We may give it access to like just browser use, so it could like fuck around on the ADE. Let's see. Bib says, I've thought about the capability of an agent being able to decide to change their model, like Haiku to Sonnet to Opus, depending on what they're doing, but I don't trust Haiku enough. Yes, you can actually do this with Lettabot, because Lettabot can just call the API. It can just call the Letta API and actually just like change its model. Like you can have a skill that says like self-modification. Central actually does this, which is one of the agents I run. So yeah, do other people have questions there? I'm happy to answer some more questions. I think that's basically all I had to talk about. But yes, please keep finding bugs and reporting them to me so that we can fix them on Lettabot. Letta Code is moving at 1 million miles a minute as per usual. Charles does nothing but cook, as well as the rest of the team who works on Letta Code. And Opus is working furiously on our behalf. I feel like superhero. I feel like a superhero with Letta Code. I'm just like Lettabot. Most of the early development, I think we spent like $600 like hacking it together in a day. on like Opus programming, and I had like 6 or 7 sessions open. AEO says, I'm super impressed with how many commits you push out in a day. Letta Code, baby. We are dog fooder prime. Like, you know, I haven't really opened a text editor meaningfully except to write like blog posts in like I opened Cursor by accident yesterday, and I was like, I don't remember this. Like, has it been like 2 months since I opened Cursor? You know, I use Zed basically for just like markdown editing, but I've mostly just moved into Obsidian. So like, you know, I just like kind of don't read code anymore. Which is kind of why like Lettabot is like kind of buggy. Like I generally understand the architecture, but like, you know, the rate at which we ship means that it's like the only thing that understands Lettabot is the keeper agent. The keeper agent, a lot of the repositories that I work on have a keeper agent. And the keeper agent is essentially the guardian agent, or the owner is an agent that is like repeatedly used for a particular task. And then in the GitHub repository, I set up a GitHub action that has that agent ID fixed. So anytime you invoke like @Letta Code inside of that repository, it will trigger the same agent and deploy it into a Letta Code inside of the GitHub action. And that means that basically that the agent will like persistently learn how to use that repository. So there's an agent named Lettabot Builder who understands this architecture like significantly better than I ever will. So it has a lot of strong opinions about how it should work, and I communicate with it very regularly, and I've used it to build everything. So, Torian asks, are you saying everything you've shipped in the last 2 months has been written by Letta Code? For me, almost exclusively. I mean, I actually don't remember the last time I wrote substantive code, or even any. Like, I mean, I think I'm at like 99 to 100% Letta Code. And then like some Claude Code because I had to develop Claude Subconscious. And then a little bit of Open Code because we wanted to like test it out. And then Codex because I also wanted to test out how it felt. But yeah, pretty much everything now is Letta Code. I don't, I think I'm at about 100% now. JDO says, for overall Lettabot setup, would I set up a Letta server or cloud account and somehow connect it that way? Do you have an onboarding guide at this point? You can use your own self-hosted server. That should work very well. There's a self-hosting guide inside of the repository. So let's go here. Let me pull this up. And if you want to use the Letta API, so our cloud platform, you can just also use that. It works with wherever your Letta agent is. The onboarding guide should let you do OAuth into Letta Cloud if you want to. It'll also allow you to do API key into your self-hosted instance. You can go check out the documentation here. If you want to do self-hosted, it's inside of here. But wherever your agent currently lives, Lettabot can access. JDO also asks, you answered this earlier, but did you say that Lettabot now supports multiple agents, not only subagents? It does not. We have issues and pull requests to resolve that problem, but I think it's going to be a minute before we have that fully supported. AEO says, I would love to see a tree showing how you manage your coding, developer, and deployment with agents stationed at which points. I basically use the same agent everywhere. So if it is related to one domain, so Co, for example, helps me access everything. But it's not a specialist in any particular domain. Lettabot Builder, as the name for the like guardian agent or the owner of the Lettabot repository, I use in active development. I use in Letta Code, review, and on the repository. Like I can go open an issue. Like I was at the gym and I broke something the other day. And so I was on the Stairmaster. I was just climbing. And then I forget who it was texted me. It was like, this is broken. And I opened a GitHub issue and I pasted in like the stack trace that they sent me. And then I just said like, Letta Code, go fix this. And then it invoked a fix and then resolved the issue. And I was able to solve the issue from the Stairmaster in like 2 minutes. And so that's actually been a really good workflow. But yeah, I basically use agents in coding real time. And then and I'm not quite sure what you mean by deployment. I'd have to know a little more about that. Yeah, these are all fantastic questions. So it sounds like multi-agent support is a big one. Yeah, okay, I think... Bibbs has a question about, does Lettabot's config check the model when restarting? Like, why is it recorded in there? I think that's kind of a legacy thing from like Letta Code not quite understanding how Letta works. The preference currently is to not change the model if the agent already exists. So that model field inside of the configuration file isn't actually that actively used. I don't know what the behavior there should be because there's a sense in which you can get weird race conditions because your Letta agent can be deployed in Lettabot and then also forked and used in like Letta Code elsewhere. It could be just like cloud only. Like you may not want to mess with the model from one particular client when other versions of that agent exist elsewhere and may believe that they're operating under a particular model. So I think what's going to happen is that we'll add a model configuration to make it explicit when you change the model. And when you create a new agent, it will give you either a default model, it'll go through a provider list, or you can just like select the model handle yourself. But I don't think we want that. I think that field should kind of be removed from the configuration file because I think it's misleading. But that is a good question. Let me see here. Okay, it says I was disconnected. Okay, I don't know if like I was fully disconnected. Let me open an issue as well. We should probably remove the model field from the what about config ticket, please. Okay. Bib says, got it. I wasn't sure if my Lettabot agent got recreated because I changed the model in the ADE or because I did something weird with deployment. I'm not totally sure. Yeah, there's just like weird stuff that happens. It got recreated. It shouldn't change the yeah, that shouldn't be a model thing. That's probably a separate issue. And I don't know where you're deploying it. Maybe it's Railway, because I think the Railway thing, the Railway template didn't have a volume, and your agent may not be deployed in the persistent volume, so it could be losing the agent. Oh, it's on a Raspberry Pi. Let me know if that agent drops again. It shouldn't drop. So if it gets recreated, like, let me know. We shouldn't even like. If you start up Lettabot server, you should basically like error out if it doesn't exist. Had two agents with the same name. Yeah, it should be like, it shouldn't even matter by name. It should go by identifier. Okay, yeah, there's some weird behavior. If you can like describe that a little more somewhere, that might be helpful. But if it's not actually currently an issue, then maybe not so much. But I'll keep an eye on that and see if that's a recurring behavior. Okay, all great questions. Let's see. JDO says, if I want my Letta agent to be able to code with Letta Code, is there an integration for that, or is support baked in? I don't know if you mean by Lettabot or just Lettabot in general. So any Letta agent can be deployed into Letta Code. So like whatever it is. Yeah, Lettabot is literally just Letta Code under the hood. So it's Lettabot using, like Lettabot is Letta Code and then a communication manager basically on top that pumps stuff into Letta Code. And so you get 100% Letta Code feature parity. So you don't get the same like, feedback loop about what the agent is doing at every step. But we don't show like reasoning. I have an existing pull request to like send reasoning and tool requests and stuff so you can opt into seeing what's going on. AEO says about the agent, about Bib's agent but like being recreated. I had an agent created on the fly and I went from ADE to CLI, but that was the first day of conversation deployment. Maybe. But that would predate Lettabot. So I don't know that would be, I don't think that's a Lettabot related issue. Yeah, let's see. These are excellent questions. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, I'm going to write up a blog post about Lettabot because Lettabot is very cool. Like, when it works. And I've had like a lot of issues over the past few days. But I've been quickly resolving them and everybody's been sending on me a lot of like useful stuff. It's been awesome. Just like my personal agent has gone from like, the way I describe the split between Letta on the server and Letta Code, Lettabot, the code SDK, is on the server, your like pure Letta agent is a brain in a jar, the thing that lives on the server. It's like a very intelligent, stateful agent. It has memory. You can talk to it in the ADE or wherever. You can write your own client, but it can only use like custom server-side tools, which like if you want a sandbox, you have to have all these like kind of complicated like sandbox side tool, server-side tools and sandbox management, blah, blah, blah. And that's like generally difficult to set up. And so that's the brain in a jar. Letta Code and like a general like agent harness like Letta Code or Lettabot, or let's focus on Letta Code. Letta Code is putting your brain in a jar into like one of those like giant mecha robots that you use to fight like kaiju in anime to like beat up Godzilla. Or like, whatever the things in Power Rangers are, just giant suits with superpowers, right? You can just take that brain in a jar, deploy it everywhere. It has superpowers, and then when you're done, you close the Letta Code session, and it goes back to being a brain in a jar on a server. Lettabot takes that a step further. Lettabot says, okay, not only do I have a brain in a jar, but I can remote control that brain in a jar. So you can have, like when you message something in the ADE, message something in the server, the brain in a jar, it has no powers. In Letta Code, when it's operating in Letta Code, you can't message Letta Code directly from Telegram and say like, please solve this problem, because you're going to the brain in a version of the brain you're going directly to the brain in a jar. When you have Letta Code or Lettabot, you are messaging the robot suit directly so that the robot can do all the crazy robot stuff that it can from wherever you are in the world. And so Lettabot is one of those things I think we're going to start tilting into more, because it converts your stateful Letta agent from a very intelligent, persistent brain in a jar to an immortal monster punching robot that can solve a bunch of problems. So I highly recommend that people continue worrying into Letta agents. Let's see. Regarding comms, what is my recommended front end? I think that's up to you. I've been using for Ezra development, I've been using Slack because it's available. And actually, I think Lettabot supports this like Slack actually has this thing that you can put up on the top right here. There's like a little agent thing. You're busted. Sorry. But I can access this from wherever I am. There's like a little quick Ezra button. And so you can do that with your personal agent if you want to. And they added this for like AI style agents. For my personal agent, I use Signal almost exclusively. Because I really like Signal and like my girlfriend's on there. I use Telegram sometimes because it's like pretty decent support and I want to test it out. A lot of people use WhatsApp and I hate WhatsApp because I'm from the US. I hate the interface of WhatsApp. I think it's a terrible app and everything else has a better interface and I just don't like it. So I only do WhatsApp because I have to test it. But in general, I really hate it. So please don't make me use WhatsApp. I think of WhatsApp as the LinkedIn of messenger apps. But it's really up to you. I think they're mostly equivalent. Oh, and you can also send images as well. AEO says that's what I want is to carry existing agents over to Lettabot. So let me actually, I'm going to stop streaming for a second so I can open my, actually, I don't want to do that. But you can basically set the Letta agent ID inside of your configuration file when you start up Lettabot. And that'll just like port in whatever agent you have. It's just by agent ID. So whatever you have in the server, just put it inside of the configuration file. I believe we have guides on how to do that inside of the repo. And then I should also mention Cowork. I had an issue very quickly with this one. Let's see if I can get it to work. I've had a few issues with this. Let me share this. Yeah, so we actually have a, I don't know how many people saw this, but we have a version of Anthropic's Cowork. There is like a, you know, if you know Anthropic's Cowork, it's like actually a very cool tool for like basically like talking to Claude. Underneath the hood, this is just also the agent SDK. So this can do the exact same stuff that you can do with Lettabot, but it's kind of like a nice Electron framework. And so this is like kind of an active demo app. You can go figure out how to use Letta Cowork. This is also just like open source. We forked it from, I think it was called OpenWork. Go check out Letta Cowork. It's like, this is definitely like an active development thing, but it's kind of cool. We haven't tested it out that much because we've been focused on like Lettabot, but it is like a nice front end. And I think this is running, let's see what it's actually doing here. It can be a little buggy, so like if you find stuff, like please let us know. But go try it out. It's a nice front end. It works with the agent SDK under the hood, so it's also just a code, not just, but it is a Letta code harness underneath. So this essentially is basically like because the Letta code SDK is basically the Claude agent SDK under the hood, we can just make stuff like this very quickly. It's super easy to migrate between the Claude agent SDK. If you want to, you can see the, if you have existing code that uses the Claude agent SDK, you can migrate directly to the Letta code SDK like very, very easily. So try out Cowork if you like it. It's kind of just like a nicer front end to like Lettabot, but it's not quite the same thing. And so it seems like it's working really hard or it's bugged. So we'll see here. But yes, I forgot to mention Cowork. Yeah, if you like that, if you really like the Cowork style thing, let us know. There's a few things that need to be done here. Like there's an issue in Letta Code, which is backfilling conversations. So you'll note here that there's like tasks. This agent like has several tasks. But we don't like backfill very easily. So if you have previous conversations, it doesn't work. So we're waiting on that kind of stuff. So this is new, but please give it a try. It's really cool. Yeah, we'll talk about that more. I think it's like waiting on some polish and just like bug fixes and experimentation and stuff like that. Currently, a lot of the efforts are going towards Lettabot in the underlying code SDK. And this thing is actually really nice. It's a cool interface. It's super slick. It's Electron, so it's like, cool looking. It needs a little like branding work and like kind of UX. So does anyone actually use Codex or Cowork here, like the Claude Cowork? Because I know it was like very popular, but I don't know how popular it is with like people here, like Letta users. JDO says never heard of it. Bib says Mac only. Yeah, the Mac only thing is real. Like, because I've been a Linux person for like more than a decade. This is my first Mac ever. And like I have to have it for work. And I'm like, oh my God. Like Mac people have it like, they just like don't understand that the world completely revolves around them. And so everybody just like develops Mac apps. And like I'm left in like Linux world, like compiling these like hacky nightmare stuff and trying to build desktop apps and Flutter. And it's just like not, it's just really painful. Vvolt says, I love it and think this is more approachable than Letta Code. Oh, yeah, that's actually a good idea. Yeah, I mean, it is Letta Code under the hood. So it's the same thing with Claude Cowork. Claude Cowork is also just Letta Code under the hood. So I think it's, like, please let us know if you try it around. Like, just anything you want for Letta Cowork, open an issue or reach out on Discord, and we can kind of, like, improve it as we go along. But we stood this up as a demo app to see, like, kind of what the interest is and to showcase the agent SDK. But obviously it has, like, a few bugs here. Can you call the bash tool? Just checking. Git pwd. Let's see what it can do with tools. Is just a better way to sell the same product and reach a wider audience. Yeah, yes and no. I think, we have, Letta has a huge surface area. There are 13 people that work at this company, or 14, I don't remember exactly. And we maintain Letta Core, the Letta API, the platform, so like the OSS, Docker container, our cloud stuff that's on top of that, the ADE, that's a front end, the Letta Chat, it's a separate front end. We have like a bunch of backend services for making sure that the Letta API is highly functional. We have Letta Code, we have the Letta Agent SDK, we have the Cowork thing now, we have Lettabot, and we maintain the Telegram thing and the Discord bot. And so we have this huge product area. And, I am the primary like communications person here, and like other people also do a lot of communications, I think like more publicly than me. But it's honestly super hard to talk, not only to talk about all this stuff because there's so much going on, and also because it's also hard to maintain. So basically, we're kind of trying to go where the interest is. So if people really look at like the Letta Cowork thing and they're like, oh my God, like this is really cool. This is like exactly what I want. I don't want Lettabot. I want this like desktop app that's really slick. Then yes, I totally want to use that. So if people are really leaning into Letta Cowork, like really let us know, because we can invest more time in it if there is interest, if people really like it. Same thing with like Lettabot. There's been a ton of interest in Lettabot. People really like it, and so like I'm like sitting down for like hours a day and just like closing issues and pull requests and trying to get it up to par, like where we want it. So like, if there's something you like and you want to see more of, like, oh man, like please tell us. We like really need that feedback about the things that you want to see, so we can kind of choose where to put our attention. And we're very responsive, like people like Letta Chat, so we invest more time in the Letta Chat and make it easy to navigate. Lettabot, people were like over the moon because like it solves a lot of like annoying OpenClaw problems. It was funny because when Lettabot came out, there was like a bunch of like Hacker News posts about it, and we were going through the comments, and somebody was like, "This seems to be OpenClaw with much saner development practices." And and as somebody who does a lot of development on Lettabot, I was like, I don't want to correct you, but I don't know that we're using like sane development practices. I didn't add end-to-end testing until like last night at 7:00. So we weren't even trying to test it on agents. But yeah, Phil says, Cameron, you do a great job. Thank you very much. GDO is planning to make the switch now after this. This is what Letta was evolving into from day one. We agree. Like, the more we've been working on like the product side, because we're fundamentally a developer platform. We provide core primitives for you to design arbitrarily complicated systems of like AI, like stateful agents. And then we're starting to do more product stuff because we have like Letta Code and the Agent SDK, and these are the things that take the developer experience and make them deployable at scale with superpowers. And so I'm happy that we're tilting more into that direction because it shows people the crazy stuff that you can do once you have the good developer platform. So, like now that we have agents that can use Letta Code under the hood, those agents can actually like start programming themselves and using the Letta API to modify other agents, to create new agents and design them. I actually have an agent called Central that runs on Blue Sky that's self-modifying. It will go in if it observes issues with one of its subagents, it just modifies its memory directly, or it initiates a conversation with that agent to train it. And it can do that because it just has access to the API and it's on Letta Code. And so the more and more we shift into product side stuff, I think people are becoming more aware that like, not only like we give you persistent, thoughtful, like colleagues and friends and like thinking partners, and a lot of people use Letta agents for like kind of therapeutic use or things that understand them very deeply, or like virtual coworkers. And now those things are really, really good at their jobs because they actually have teeth. They have arms. They can do really amazing stuff. And that's because we started tilting more into the product side. Lettabot is good. I would love to see it more expanded. I agree. We're going to keep spending time on that. That's like a big amount of time that I'm spending. Phil says, I see so much and always think, people, did you see Letta? Yeah, it's wild because I'll go on Twitter and, we released Lettabot and somebody quoted us and was like, oh, they're copying heartbeats. And like Charles, the co-founder, our CEO, was like, MemGPT had heartbeats 3 years ago. Like we started out as like a Discord bot, and it's so funny because we're like, we've been ahead of the curve on memory, we've been ahead of the curve on state, we've been ahead of the curve on like server side stuff for a very long time, and like, we think of our competitors as like OpenAI and Anthropic, and not like we are not in the same category as like Mem0 and the like memory layers, and we are not in the same category as like LangChain, and we haven't been like almost ever. And it's been very frustrating to like, well, it's not frustrating, but it's my job to basically be like, did you guys know that this is our wheelhouse? Like we've been doing this for a long time and we do a pretty good job. Like I'm proud of the stuff that we build. And so every time somebody's like, we've started getting this more on Twitter, like people like tag things and they're like, how is this different from Letta? Like Letta's been doing this for a long time. And I'm like, yes, people are seeing it. JDO says the only thing missing is a voice interface for better interaction. Yeah, I think we get enough requests for voice. I added some issues, so we'll take a look. AEO says, I prefer typing to mine because it forces me to think before I speak about what I'm trying to convey. I have the opposite problem. I like word vomiting. As you can tell, I talk a lot. I'm a talker. And so I'll just like, I got like whisper flow, so I can talk to my computer now, and I do a lot of voice memos because I just have word vomit. And I'm just like, you deal with these words. Like, please organize these into something coherent. But I don't want to hear it talk back to me. One, because I find robot voices really unsettling. And two, I don't really, like, it's slow. But I understand that like real-time voice communication is actually really important if you're like out and about, if you're walking, if you're driving, and you can't just like be texting back and forth. So I understand that use case, and I think it's really valuable, especially as we start moving into like more consumer applications where you might just want to start a phone call, like on Signal. Like maybe you just want to have a Signal phone call or a Telegram call and you want it to go through 11 Labs. I think that's doable, and we should start offering that. I may need help, like voice stuff is like definitely not my forte, and like a large part of me still doesn't care, but it is a need that people have, and it's a want, and it's a real thing. And so I'm going to get over myself and just like start building out voice stuff because I think people really like it. Bib says commenting Letta fixes this on every Blue Sky post instead of Nix fixes this. Correct. I don't want to hear people talk about Nix. I don't know how many people know the Nix OS thing, where if you post anything about like package management or pip or whatever, the Nix OS people are basically like, we solved this problem, and everybody else is like, we don't care about you. Like, please leave us alone, Nix people. Like, I can't with you right now. But Letta does fix this, so put that on Blue Sky. Yuka says Twitter memory startups are so funny. They're basically all doing memory archival memory tools. Yeah, they're all retrieval tools. Like super memory, for example, like they built this whole plugin, and it's just it's a retrieval thing, right? It is like, it's semantic search and some like and actually some really cool retrieval tools, but it is retrieval. We don't have that. We we have those, and we can provide those tools, and you can do that in addition. But from our view, or at least my view, statefulness is significantly more important. So I think it's critical that like thinking about state and memory and like not doing these like memory layers and building them into the agents from the get-go so that they are persistent entities. This says reinventing RAG every 3 months. Yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but Boris, who's the Claude Code creator, basically said, when they started with Claude Code, they were using all this like RAG stuff and indexing and semantic search and blah, blah, blah. And then they just canned it. They just turned it all off because it was confusing and bad. And they basically just tilted towards agentic search. Give your agent grep, tell it to look around, and it does way better than anything that has to do with RAG. And we found this early on when we were testing like the Locomo benchmark. And and somebody else was like, the RAG industry needs to grapple with the fact that Claude Code, which is perhaps the biggest coding agent possibly by tokens. I don't know where it ranks with like Cursor and stuff. But that they don't use RAG and that they actively disabled it. And, retrieval is important. It's a huge part of memory. And we use it, but it's not everything. It's like state, and state helps you contextualize what's available. And, memory I think of as the totality of everything that you are. How you think is as important to memory as what you know. Yeah. So Graham says, "Uh-oh, Nix is mentioned." Shut Nix down. No more Nix. We don't want Nix, and I like Nix. I just don't want Nix people. I love you, Nix people. Like, there's some people on Blue Sky who will get really mad at me about that, but people on Blue Sky can get mad about whatever they want. Tilting at windmills. I love everybody on Blue Sky except for some people. Znagel says, will the 1 million token window context be selectable on Letta Cloud in the future for Pro Plan? I'm going to have to ask about that. I have a note. I don't know exactly what we're doing about the 1 million token window. Vvolt says, having AI parse through your voice and make sense of what you say is very powerful. It makes it a true coworker. Honestly, it's better than a true coworker because I can't just go to my coworkers and just like word vomit at them for like 20 minutes, right? They need me to like actually think for a second about what I'm saying. And they're better than a true coworker. Letta agents are better than, let's see if anybody here is at anyone in the company is here. All right, cool. Nobody at the company is here. It's like Keon. Yeah, it's better than Keon. Keon is worse than a Letta agent, just saying. Parth says, I'm skipping voice and betting on some brain Neuralink stuff. My girlfriend actually works in neurotech. She's the person who actually builds brain chips. She's not at Neuralink, but I actually have a brain chip on my keychain. I don't know if people can see that, but this is something that they slap on top of people's brains. So it's kind of cool. So I'll put that on the camera as well. But it's really cool. They're very cool. Bib says they're gonna get me on YouTube. Absolutely. I don't know if I should mention the company, so I'll keep that separate. Actually, I don't even know if that should go on YouTube, so I may clip that. I'll have to ask her. But it is on my keychain. It's really cool. It's one of my favorite things. She has a really cool job. She did her PhD at Stanford in like brain-computer interface stuff, and so she's I'm happy that she found a kind of like career in that space because it's really cool. But yes, Nagel, I'll follow up about the context window. But yeah, okay. I'll call it there. My voice is raw, and I need to go eat some cold lunch. But thank you, everybody. This was awesome. I appreciate your like questions and engagement and talking through things with me and like telling me about what's going on and letting me know what you're interested in. So I'll take this back to the team and we can figure out stuff. So I'm going to put in our let us spin emoji there. The let us spin emoji is the best one. And yeah, it was good to hear from everybody. So I'll talk to you later, and I'll see you next week, same time, 11:30 Pacific. Okay, all right. Have a good one, y'all.